In this video, I want to create a shape that is more organic in nature, and we'll use the loft command in order to do that. So I'm going to start out with this ellipse right here in the center, and then I'm going to offset over to this distance B and to this distance C, 30 and 45, and draw a circle diameter 20 and a circle diameter 16, and I'm going to mirror those two to the other side as well. So let's look at setting all of this up. So I started by creating a new metric part file, and I'm going to go to the right side plane and start a new sketch then on that YZ plane. So I'll do a new sketch, and I'm going to draw a vertical line, and I'm going to just put it out here in space for now, and then I'm going to draw a horizontal line, and again I'll put it out here in space. But I want the midpoint of these lines to be at the origin, and so I'll do coincident. I'll select the midpoint of this line, put it at the origin. I'll select the midpoint of this line, put it at the origin. I'm then going to dimension this, and I'll dimension this so I see that it's 10 from here to here, and I see that it's 16 from here over to here, or I could do as 20 and 32, which is what I think I'll do, is the 20 and 32. So I'm going to dimension this distance as 20, and I'll dimension this distance as 32. Alright, I'm going to change these two lines to construction lines, so I'll crossing windows, select those, right click, change them to construction, and then underneath the circle command I'm going to do an ellipse, and so I'll draw the ellipse from the origin to this endpoint as the major axis, and up here to this endpoint as the minor axis. Notice that the sketch turns dark, it's all fully constrained. I'm then going to draw a line across here, and I need to know that distance, so I also need this distance down here to 30. So I'm going to put a line across here like that, and then I'm also going to draw a line from this point down, and I'm going to change this line to construction, and I'll dimension in that distance 30 from here down to here. And when I get an angle like that, I know that I didn't get, or I thought that I didn't get that in vertically, but it is in vertical, so I'll do that again. I'm going to dimension from this point to this line. There we go, and that's a distance of 30. Alright, and then I can dimension that distance from here up to this line as 38. So I'll dimension from this line to this point as 38. Notice it all turns dark, that it's all fully constrained. Now I want to trim this top part off, and I'm hoping that I don't lose any constraints when I trim that off. So I'm going to do trim, and I'm going to select this curve right here, and so far so good. I'm going to select it right here, and when I did that I see that it didn't stay fully constrained. So I'm going to try to drag this and see if I can figure out what the issue is, and I see that this curve is no longer going through that point. So I'll undo that, and I'll do coincident. So imaginary, if this curve continued on up through here, it would go through this point. So I'm going to select the curve, I'll select that point, and it all turns dark again. It's all fully constrained. Alright, I'm going to finish this sketch, and then I'm going to offset a plane over a distance of 30, and then another one at a distance of 45. So let's temporarily turn on the visibility of the YZ plane, and then I'm going to do a new plane. So I'll click on plane, I'm going to click and drag, and I'll put in a distance of 30 for this offset distance. And then I'm going to do another offset, And I'm going to offset this plane. Now make sure you do it from this plane, not from this one. I'll offset this plane and I'll bring this out here, and I'm going to do that distance 45. Okay, I may want to hide the dimensions on this sketch to click up clutter on the screen, so I'm going to right click and I'll turn off the dimension visibility on that sketch. And I may want to drag these work planes up to occur before the sketch, so I'm going to drag this work plane up and I'll drag this work plane up, so those two work planes occur before this sketch. I don't need to see the visibility of the original YZ plane. Actually, I will use that in a few minutes, so I'm going to leave that visible. All right, then I have a circle that is diameter 20, and it says down here that it's 41 from the end, so it's going to be up here, distance 41 from that end. So I'll start a new sketch on this plane, and I'm going to project geometry this line onto this sketch. So I'll select that line, it projects it into this sketch. I'm going to draw a circle somewhere on this line, but not at the end of it, not at the midpoint, not down here. I'll draw it someplace on that line, about like that, and then I'll dimension this as a diameter of 20. And when I did that, it moved it down here further. I actually want this to be actually up above the origin up here, and so the distance from the end, from here up to the center of this circle, it says is 41. So I'll dimension from this circle to the end of this line down here, that distance as 41. Notice that it all turns dark. It's all fully constrained. I'll finish this sketch, and then I'm going to turn off the visibility of the dimensions just to clear up clutter. So I'll right click, I'll turn off the dimension visibility, and then I'm going to put another circle, this one diameter of 16. Notice it's also up 41 from the end. So I'll click on this plane, I'll do a new sketch, and this time I'm going to project geometry this point right here in the center of this circle, because that's that same 41 distance. And I'll draw a circle here, diameter 16, and we see that that's fully constrained. So I'll finish my sketch. Now I want to do the same thing over on the other side. We can mirror these two planes, but unfortunately we can't mirror the sketches, but there is still an easy way to do it. So I'm going to go to mirror, and it says select features. I'm going to select this plane and this plane, and then I'll get the selection tool here for mirror plane. I want to mirror about this plane, so it's going to mirror those two over here. I'll say OK to that. Again, I can drag that mirror plane to occur up here before the sketches occurred in history. Alright, then I'm going to start a new sketch on this plane, and I'm going to project geometry this circle. So it'll be the same size on this plane that it was on that plane. And that sketch is done. We'll do the same thing on this plane. So I'll do a new sketch on this plane, I'll project geometry, and I'll click this circle, and I'll say finish sketch. So now that is projected back here. If I want to turn off the dimension visibility back here on sketch 3, I can right click, turn that dimension visibility off. I don't need to see these work planes, so I can turn off the visibility of these work planes as well. And you can either do that by right clicking over in the browser, or you can right click right on the screen to turn off the visibility of these work planes. So I need to turn off the visibility. Okay, then I'm going to do a loft from this circle to this ellipse, back up to this circle, and back to this circle. When you're doing a loft, it's important that you go in order. Now we can either go in order from right to left or from left to right, but we can't zigzag back and forth between our profiles. And it's a good idea to pick your profiles in approximately the same location. So I'm going to pick like down here about 5 o'clock position on each one of these. So I'll do loft, and I'm going to, for my sections, I'm going to click this circle as a section. I'll click the next one. I'll click the ellipse, and I'll click this circle, and I'll click this circle, and I'll say OK to that. So that gives me that organic shape going from end to end. I'm going to do this cylinder down here next, so I will turn on the visibility of the first sketch to use it as a reference, and then I'll start a new sketch, and I can either do this on the XY plane or the YZ plane. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to do it on the XY plane, a new sketch, and I'm going to project geometry this line from sketch 1 into our current sketch, and I'll draw a rectangle from the origin, and I need to just put it out here in space at first, and then drag the end of this down to the end of that line. I'll change this line to a center line, and then I'll dimension the diameter 20 from here to here. So I'll dimension that from here to here, and I need to make sure actually that I get that center line, and that, remember, there's a construction line underneath of that. The construction line only goes from here to here. The center line goes all the way up to here. I'll dimension, I'll select this center line, I'll select either this line or this end point, and I can put in that as a diameter then of 20, and I'll go to the 3D model tab, and I'll revolve that area in here about that axis, and we'll say OK to that. I can hide that sketch number 1, which I use to set that height of 30 from the center down. Alright, then I'm going to put some fillets in here. So I see I have a radius 6 fillet here and a radius 6 fillet here. So I'll select one of these edges, I'll do fillet, I'll put the radius as 6, and then I need to select this edge. I'll have to pick it twice, here and here, and I'll pick this edge and this edge, and we'll say OK to that. So now I have those radius 6 fillets in here. The last thing I want to do is put an M12 threaded hole in from the bottom, and I didn't put the depth of this. Actually I did. It's 18 for the thread depth. We should always drill a little bit deeper than the thread depth, so let's do 20 as the drill depth, 18 as the thread depth. So I'm going to go to the hole command. I'm going to select a threaded hole, and I'm going to select this face, and I want this centered here, so I'll click on this cylinder. It'll move it to the center, and then I don't want it to go all the way through, but let's check. So if I have a ANSI metric profile, an M12 by 1.75, and if you need to change that, just go through the dialog boxes to change that. I don't want to go all the way through, so I'm going to uncheck full depth, and I'm going to click distance here for the termination. So I want to go down a distance of 20, but let's change this first or it will give us an error. So let's make this shorter. I'm going to make this 18, and then I'm going to make this as 20, and we'll select OK to that. Now I may want to put a chamfer on here to break that sharp edge, so I'm going to do a chamfer, let's say of 1 millimeter, and I'll say OK to that. And then I may want to put a material on here, and keep in mind that again, material and appearances are two different things. So I could put a material on here of say steel or stainless steel. I'm going to make this steel. I don't like that appearance though, and so I'm going to change that appearance to chrome. I'm going to do chrome polished, and so there is my handle.